With the vast number of video games that seem to come out on a weekly basis now, there's always going to be games that sort of fall through the cracks. Maybe they don't have a big marketing push, it's done by a smaller independent studio, so word of mouth is the only way to really get notoriety to this game. Now, the game we're talking about today is a game called Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, and if you're not familiar with this game, I'm not going to blame you. Really, there's only two types of people that would probably be excited for this game or be in tune with it. Those who are classic Sega fans, such as myself, who grew up with a lot of Sega franchises that now just don't exist unless it's Sonic the Hedgehog, or you watch RGT85, because I made a video talking about 15 upcoming Nintendo Switch games for the second half of 2023, and this was actually the first game I believe I talked about, or maybe it was the second, because yeah, I think it was the second game, but regardless, it was very early on in the video, and this was a game that I was really looking forward to. Had high hopes for it as a fan of Jet Set Radio and Jet Grind Radio, but the problem is with a lot of these homage games, they kind of miss the mark a bit, and I was worried that that was going to be the case with this game. Now, this game has released on the Nintendo Switch as a console-first game. It'll be coming out on PlayStation and Xbox on September 1st. It is also available on Steam, so not only is this a Nintendo Switch game, but it's a multi-platform game, so is the Switch version going to be gimped? Is it going to be missing stuff? Is it going to be not as good as the competition systems are? There were a lot of questions going into this. I've been playing this game for a few hours now, and there is a ton of stuff I want to talk about because I am smitten with this game. So, the story of Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, yes, it does have a story. You basically get your head chopped off at the beginning of the game, and then you get a robot head, and you lose all your memories of when you were a human. You were basically a big dude in like the gangs and tagging scene. You were in jail, you get broken out of jail, your head gets chopped off, and now you have this robot head. So you're on a quest to get your human head, which you find out is still alive, but it's being held by the leader of all of the gangs, who kind of reminds me of the leader of the guy from the Warriors. Can you dig it? Like, there's definitely nods and references to him as far as that character is concerned, which I really liked. So the outlay of the game is basically there's different territories that different gangs are in control of, and you and your new friends that you make have to basically take over these territories and make them your own. The story itself is fine. Like, it does get kind of deep at some points with, like, you know, the roots. Your roots are definitely a theme that get talked a lot about. Like, other characters talk about your roots, you talk about wanting to find your roots, so it's kind of like a, you know, a becoming of self sort of story, but I don't really need a story in this game. Like, I'll be honest with you. Some of the cutscenes I kind of zoned out a little bit on. It's fine. You know, it's an interesting enough catalyst to, you know, progress through the game, but I'm all about the gameplay in this game because, like I said, I'm an old man and I like games like Jet Set and Jet Grind Radio. So this was a game that was definitely something I was going to be interested in. But like I said, I was worried. I was worried about the whole homage thing because it always seems like they missed the mark. But damn it, if this game isn't fantastic in replicating that style of gameplay. Now, right out of the bat, you start out with a skateboard, which is a little bit different, but eventually you get things like inline skates, which of course are rollerblades, and a BMX bike. Basically, you go into different territories and there are different crews there. You talk to the crews and they challenge you to things like trick battles and stuff like that, and as you defeat these members, you end up accessing more areas of the level in order to get to the final boss of the level. Of course, you're doing a lot of sort of movement around these levels with grinds, wall rides, and spray painting. Tagging is a huge part of this game, as you'll see opposing enemies tag symbols on stuff, so you have to spray paint them yourself. You basically spray paint them by hitting a button when you're near it. I believe it's the R trigger button, not the ZR, the R trigger, and then you get this little screen that pops up where you have to take the analog stick and do it in a certain direction to do it. You know, that's fine. It doesn't really seem like you can mess it up, so you have all the time in the world to do it. I could see some people getting tired of that, though, instead of just like an instant tag or whatever. I don't know if that's unlocked, you know, later on in the game, but I'm pretty sure it's not. It's something that you always have to do. Kind of reminds me a little bit of sealing the seals on Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, but it's not a big deal. Like, it's a very simple thing, and you could just pretty much move the joystick around, and it'll end up doing it anyways. But tagging, grinding, getting big combos and stuff like that, trying to figure out how to get to higher up areas in order to tag certain things that you see. There's tons of stuff to do in this game. There's a combo trick system in it as well. When you're grinding on stuff, you can do manuals and stuff. Like, it really feels like Tony Hawk and Jet Set Radio had a baby, and like, this is what popped out. And like, I am having a great time playing it. One thing that this game also offers that was not available in Jet Set Radio is, well, combat. Yes, there is combat in the game, because cops will run up on you and you got to fight them off. You know, the cops don't want you tagging stuff like that, so you can fight the cops. There's boss battles as well. The combat is okay. You know, it's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it works. Sometimes the camera gets a little bit floaty during the combat, and there's kind of like not that satisfaction. Like, you feel like your punches and your sweeps and stuff like that, it feels like they don't have a lot of weight into them. You know, there's not a lot of weight in the combat of the game. It feels a little bit floaty. You can also throw spray paint and tag the cops as well, which is actually pretty funny and kind of cool. And the boss battles can actually be pretty interesting, because it's not just on the ground combat. You have to grind around stuff to get to higher plateaus in order to fight the bosses. I think it works well. Maybe a little more tightening could have been done to it. You know, it's definitely one of the areas that it's kind of like, okay, you know, this is decent, but I want to get back out into skating. I want to get back out into grinding. I want to get back out into doing big tricks. One thing that is cool is that there's a heat meter. As you're progressing throughout these levels and you're tagging different stuff, the cops will, you know, you'll get like a little bar, kind of like in Grand Theft Auto, where there's like different star levels. And the higher that gets, the more aggressive they get. But you can actually change your clothes to drop the heat. I really like that. I think that's a really cool little touch that they added into this game that definitely makes it a lot of fun. One thing that stands out are the visuals of this game. The presentation of this game is fantastic. I am a fan of cel-shaded games. I know they were kind of overdone in like 2005 era of gaming, but this is an art style that will always look good because it's not relying on detailed sprites and stuff like that. It's relying on art. And this game just pops so much. The Switch version of the game looks great. There was absolutely no slowdown while I was playing it, and things do get pretty crazy. There's multiple characters on screen doing multiple tricks, and also like there's like score attacks that you have to do, or like you and your crew are going up against other crews. So there's a lot of stuff going on screen, but it never slows down. There's some destructible elements in the game as well. A very visually pleasing game, and once again, going into that presentation, the audio in the game is fantastic. It's all just sort of like underground kind of hip-hop beats with a little bit of funk mixed into it, but they're all really good, and some of them are actually very catchy, almost to the point of where I want to seek out this soundtrack so that I could figure out like which of these songs are which, because I like some of them. I'd like to listen to them outside of the game. I would say the one sort of issue beyond just the combat can be sort of the camera. You can adjust the camera a bit, and you know it works, but sometimes the camera just kind of trips up on itself is basically what happens. You know, you're in this big 3D environment, you use the second analog stick to control the camera, and it works for the most part, but sometimes there are, you know, moments where it's like, okay, well, I wish it would have been a little bit faster. But if you crank up the camera intensity for the movement speed of it, it might mess you up in other areas. So trying to find that delicate balance can be a little bit tricky. But this game, if you ever played Jet Set Radio, Jet Grind Radio, and you liked it, you need to buy this game. If you've never played those games before, but you're liking what you're seeing in this gameplay footage, you need to buy this game. Oh, and the game looks freaking phenomenal in handheld mode on the OLED. The colors are just so damn good. They pop so much. All the textures are crisp. No Vaseline smearing on here. I am smitten with this game. This game, it's like Hi-Fi Rush. Remember how Hi-Fi Rush came out on the Xbox and everyone loved it because it was a surprise game that had a really good art style? This is the same. This game is in the same vein of this game. It's an absolute blast. Yes, it's $40, but I feel like it's worth it. You know, I honestly feel like it's worth it. I bought it for $40 because of my curiosity, and I'm glad I did, man. I'm glad I did. Between this and Red Dead Redemption's remaster, like, I'm good for a little while, man. I got plenty of games to play. Also, I do want to mention that you can revisit levels, and there's tons of unlockables to do as well. So don't be worried because the story mode might not be the longest in the world. You know, like I said, I've been playing for a couple hours, and I'm probably, you know, 70-ish% complete, I would have to guess. But there's tons of unlockables to get in the game as well in these levels, and some of them are in very tricky places, so you'll have a lot of content in this game. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, a surprise game of 2023, and something that I think people are going to be talking about, maybe even an indie game of the year, man. Like, I think it's that damn good. Let me know in the comment section down below if you plan on picking up a Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.